the deal is in this podcast, we just talk like we're at a bar and have had maybe a couple drinks or whatever.
Great.
So sometimes we use what people consider curse words. So we're just here to warn you. If you don't like these words, then first of all, get a life. But I mean, if you have kids walking around, you're like, oh, he said the F word, then either teach your kid the F word or just listen to us in a closet. But you have been warned. Welcome to Reef Beef. My name is Ben.
My name is Rich.
And today we're going to be talking about impatience and bad or uninformed choices. I'm going to beef about crappy equipment all over the place. And Richard's going to beef about Palythoas and why anyone still has these. This show is sponsored by saltwateraquarium.com. It is powered by PolypLab. And it is also brought to you by Champion Lighting Supply.
And the members. We love you, beefers. This is Reef Beef. Hey, I'm just going to talk to you right now. I find several things that I need to show you right now.
Do it.
First, I don't know if you can see that. That's one of my, that's like my first juggling business card.
Did you make that? Ooh, that came right in other goofy stuff.
Yeah. I found.
What happens if I call that phone number?
I have no fucking idea. But that was my original.
Where'd you get those graphics?
I drew it, I think.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah. And then somebody in the mail sent me this.
A pickleless cage. Oh my God. For the people just listening, it is a pickle with Nicolas Cage's face on it, and it says pickleless cage. Did someone send that to you and didn't even say who it was?
Yes, it's got to be Tammy.
Okay.
Because, I got the banana, the Nicolas Cage on a banana too.
Yeah.
Which is over here somewhere. Oh, look, Reef Beef stickers. Ooh.
I don't get any. Oh, those are so old.
And then I
got
one more thing to show you.
Do it. Is it your first aquarium?
That is not my first aquarium, but it's one of my early aquariums. In my bedroom, I can tell I know what house that's in, because I can recognize the curtains. I love the freaking fluorescent light on top of it. It's a 29 tall, which was the best size tank for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's my two Oscars, which I love very much. But look at the thing that's in the water. Can you tell what that is?
Oh my God, what is that?
Do you want to know? Or should we let the beefers look at this and guess, and then we'll reveal?
No one's gonna guess.
Someone will get it. I guarantee. I think someone could get it. There it is. I'll get a snowman a picture of this as well.
What else is in there? Geophagus europari?
It's not a Jurapari. That's just some fucking African cichlid.
In all my travels and years, I don't recognize that thing on the bottom.
It's in the wrong orientation.
It's supposed to be up?
Standing up. Look at that. Look at that. Mixing continents.
I can't believe that too. Two Oscars. No, not Europari and.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
But there's a good look at that thing that I was using as a decoration.
Okay, let's just don't tell me. And
I won't tell you. And we'll see if any of the beefers get it. If the beefers get it, I will send them a prize. If anybody figures out what that is, I have a prize that I will send you.
Like a Reef Beef whoopee cushion.
No, I don't have boxes of Reef Beef whoopee cushions. I have like some peristaltic pumps I'll send you.
And it's really sad that you don't have boxes of Reef Beef whoopee cushions.
I think that is a terrible thing.
I think that's a statement on your well-being.
It is a statement of my well-being.
So what's going on? Anything new with your tanks?
Yeah. The cleanup is going really well. The cleanup of the electrical stuff is actually pretty much done. I got in there yesterday and cleaned up even more from the front. I've got the new facades for the top of the built-in where the canopy would be, and for the bottom. Those are in place and they're white, and I think they're looking really good. I cleaned my gyres as well, which is something I've never done in my life, but
Is that what they call it these days?
cleaning my gyre. I had to replace one of the magnets. The only reason I went in there is because every time it would come on, it would shift, because there's two magnets that hold it, right?
Yeah.
And one of them wasn't gripping anymore. So the one side would wiggle every time. So I cleaned all those. And by cleaning them, I mean, I crushed all the vermitid snails and wiped them off. I didn't really do anything else. My thing with gyres is don't ever touch it. And I don't have a big enough, the right shaped bucket to put them in citric acid. Plus they didn't need it. They just were covered in vermitid.
You're like, I cleaned my gyre, which means you like stuck something in there and knocked some vermitids off.
No, there was nothing inside. Inside, the blades all look clean. The vermitids are all on the outside.
Oh, okay.
And I was going to start catching out my larger fox face.
Yeah.
'Cause I thought-
Magnificent?
No, he's just a fucking
Not so
yellow,
magnificent.
boring. Yeah.
Whole pinnace low.
What's the opposite of magnificent? Pedestrian,
Lackluster.
regular, standard, just a standard,
Troglodyte. Standard.
boring standard. I was going to catch him out because I thought he was eating some corals. And then I actually pulled that coral out to do some other work on it. And I noticed that he was going after bubble algae there.
Dude, come on, man.
So I decided not to catch him out. But I had already moved stuff around to make it easier to put the fish trap in the tank. And so I ended up redoing the left side of the tank pretty extensively.
Wow.
I like it very much better. And I've made it even harder to get a trap in there in the future if I need to put the trap in. But
Good long-term thinking.
I am totally loving, tweaking with the display of a mature tank. It's every 4 to 6 months or so, there's something to be done. And I had already done the right side, and now the left side needed it again. But the pieces are so big that I can rearrange them, and it still looks grown in. Like, it'd be very hard to tell that this tank had anything done to it.
I was about to say, like, it could be a little scary because if you made some changes that you weren't happy with, but your tank is so chaotic's not the right word, busy. It's so busy that if you just move some stuff, it's still busy of a different flavor.
Yeah, it's just a different flavor. And my new feeling, with tanks is they're like, like the dishes are never done. It's the same thing. The tank's never done. You're always the tank is a living thing. The decorations are living and growing. So you're going to constantly be changing it.
Oh, certainly.
And I'm enjoying that again. That was a chore for a long time. And now I'm like, woohoo, I love it.
I have a client that has a monopore digitata, a red digi this big.
Yeah.
And it grows on the sand bed off of a square frag disc, a big one set in the sand. But it grows so fast it wants to like contact the glass. And every time he goes by with the magnet or I reach in there, and I'm telling you, it's like 1.5 feet across. So if you just look at it, a branch breaks off. But what I've been doing is just setting the branches on each other, because I did that and they just end up fusing together.
Yeah.
And over time I built up this cool little tree where it attaches to a top rock, and now it's growing from the bottom all the way up. And it's
awesome.
like,
I've got some Montipora capricornis in one of the tanks behind me, and I just wish I had Montipora eating nudibranchs because the shit grows so fast.
Yeah.
And I don't care about it.
That's one thing with Montipora capricornis. When it gets old, like when you've been around that specimen for like years, and it has all the sort of like what green star polyps will do after years and years, where it's got all that old growth underneath it that's just like sort of a crappy mess.
Yeah. So maybe when you're here, we'll knock it all out and pull it all out and throw it away or take it to a store or something. But what a pain in the ass that coral is. But I haven't gotten to the tanks in this room yet. I've been doing so much work on the display in the other room. I'm pretty thrilled. What else is going on? The babies seem to be doing just fine. The baby corals, the baby Mellipora.
No algae problems?
There is algae problems, but not too bad. I I also picked up a tiny biota yellow tang to co-culture with them, and that seems to be working out well. And I am hopefully receiving a bunch of little urchins next week.
Boston?
No, Bill Chapman.
Oh, okay.
Boston's going to send them though, because that's very nice. And I'll do a better job at trying to get someone to get me urchins earlier next year. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else going on with my tanks that anyone cares about. I don't think so.
How's that green anemone, that weird anemone?
Oh, it's huge. It's ridiculous. That thing's fine. Yeah, it's up there.
I'll see it when I'm there.
These tanks behind me haven't been cleaned in a long time because I've been busy. But I clean my tank, the display. I clean the front, and I clean the glass, and I clean the algae and on the glass, and I raised the lights and rearranged the lights a little bit. And the last 4 or 5 nights, I'm just staring at the tank for like an hour every night.
Oh, that's cool.
Like there's a lot going on in this tank, and I like it a lot.
Well, it's good to have a tank for so long. And then, the fear would be if you ever caught yourself feeling like that you just weren't feeling it.
Yeah.
But it's cool to be able to still sit there and enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, that's back. And when you're here, we'll probably pull my my Dursos and enjoy 1 billion Aptasia and 1 million billion vermitid snails.
You need to blow Reef beef.
Hey, Richard, saltwateraquarium.com is the place to be.
Aquarium.com. They have stuff you can buy.
Richard is going to bring up their mobile app, which I can verify that you can at 4:28 a.m. if you sleep naked, you can lay in your bed naked and use your fingers that God gave you to tap on things, and people will bring things to your house.
And make sure you do it on a private browsing mode though.
Yeah.
Saltwateraquarium.com. I'm excited now that I'm going to Reef Stock because Kenneth is going to be there and I haven't seen him in a while.
Awesome.
So that's great.
Oh, when you do order from saltwateraquarium.com, you need to go below and use our URL that will send you to them from us, so they know. Otherwise, they're not going to know what effect that their dollars are having.
Yes, so, and if you go there to buy stuff, which we appreciate, because I mean we were customers before this podcast existed, so we were buying stuff from them 1 million years ago, and we were thrilled that they have been supporting us. And last time or a few shows ago, I asked for people in the notes field to like write a poem or a limerick or a haiku and put it in there. And we had a couple of people who from a different country were like, well, I can't buy from them in a way that makes any sense, but here's a poem. And what I left out was, I thought it was implicit, and they were great poems that we got. I'd like it to be reef related, a reef related poem, or a reef beef related poem or haiku, not just the dirtiest limerick, which was really fun to read. But I wanted it to be a little more about our stuff. So
pertinent.
Please, if you're ordering from them, write a haiku or a limerick or a poem about reef keeping or about reef beef and stick it in there, and we'll get them to send it to us, and then we'll read it on the air.
Saltwateraquarium.com. Go check them out.
Yeah.
You need to blow Reef beef.
Man, I've had a slew of new potential clients and whatnot. One of them was today was pretty cool, which was it's funny. I didn't think much of it at first because a guy contacted me and he said, how much to clean tanks? And I'm like, I need more info than that, and he was just like, he seemed sort of urgent. Like, can you just tell me a price? Like it's like 3 250-gallon aquariums. And but I heard, that many aquariums. So I was like, okay, that's piqued my interest. But I was like, well, I have a protocol that I do to sort of protect myself. Like, I need to see pictures of what I would be dealing with, and I need your address. And if you're squeamish about any of those, I just can't do anything with that. But because to a certain degree, I don't want like a competitor just like calling how much do you charge to clean a 200-gallon freshwater aquarium? And I just give you a number, and then you base, if you're a competitor, you just base what you charge off of that. I try to avoid stuff like that. So, and then really preferably, as long as it's possible, I'd rather go see them in person. I'm not trying to make it difficult to get a number out of me. It's just, I need to see that you're real and that you really want me to come clean the tanks. So I visited those tanks today, and the people were super nice. And part of it frustrates me. It's real funny. Like, I was thinking about this today. I knew we were going to record, and I was considering talking about this, but it's real weird. My feelings on seeing like aquarium systems that had a lot of potential that have been mismanaged by like a slew of people. And I guess, the question is it the person with the aquariums? Do they not know how to identify, like, what criteria are they using to find people to clean the tank? Because the guy himself told me, he's like, yeah, man, we've been through 5 people. And I don't say anything, but in my head, it's like, well, did you just wanted someone with a pulse, or did you ask them any questions?
Well, they don't know.
That's
true.
true.
You know what I mean? Nobody knows. You assume that people who say that they do this for a living know what they're saying. I don't even know how as a civilian you would even go about vetting anybody who would
either or you don't know.
Yeah.
But isn't that not too far off of hiring a contractor? You want someone to do electrical work, and it's like, you don't really know what to ask them or tell them. You just sort of want them to tell you what you need to do.
Yeah, but at least there you can go, what's your license number? And if they don't have one, you go, fuck you.
Our industry tried to do that at one point, and I think the person leading that charge was someone in my town, was the Sinskis, who run ADG. But there was a lot of conflict of interest, I think, because that sort of thing is sort of weird, because a third party somehow needs to do that. And I just don't think our industry is ever going to do that.
Yeah. So it's impossible for a civilian to know anything until they know something.
It was dead, but I mean, it was sad because there were several dead fish that were hidden off in the rock that I could see. And I saw a dead Amphiprion ocellaris, just a regular clown. And then buried over here, I saw a Premnus, like a maroon clown. And I said, what's the deal with this? And he said, the guy said, yeah, that bothered me because we had this little clown for forever, and the guy brought this big maroon clown. And I said, aren't they going to fight? And the guy said, no, they're from the same family, is what the service provider told them. They killed each other right away. And like two tangs and the fox face and their whole fish collection died after that fight. So I'm still due to get to tomorrow or the next day. I'm given that, but it's potentially really big client because it's 2 locations that are close to each other, a 250-gallon saltwater and 2 250-gallon freshwater tanks. So, I mean, that's potentially over $1,000 a month in, maintenance. So
awesome.
Hopefully looking forward to that.
Send them to this podcast, because that'll cinch it.
No, that's tricky. I mean, if you watch for long term, like I mean it from the heart, but you see me wearing Santa Claus clothes and an alien hat, and it's just like, but hey, beefers and not yet beefers, this is entertainment. This is why I do this stuff.
Proto beefers.
Are you not entertained?
Reef Builders was bought by our friend Raj.
Yep.
Of MRC fame, and so that's very exciting.
That is crazy.
Seems like a great, out of all the things that could have happened to the legacy of Jake and Reef Builders, Raj is a great person, I think, to take that over and do something for the benefit of the entire community with it. And because I am Raj's bitch, now apparently I'm going to Restock and giving a talk. So yes, I am Raj's little yes man.
Little peon. No, you're not. What are you talking about? But
no,
Raj is a cool guy.
I like Raj a lot. And he's one of the people that I would talk to about, meta hobby stuff all the time. And the excitement I'm feeling that there might be a possibility to do good in that world, in that realm, is making me
Giddy,
chubby.
chubby,
Giving me a chub.
give you some wood.
I'm excited.
You need to blow Reef Beef.
Champion Lighting Supply. Richard's nodding no. Champion Lighting Supply does not sell baby turtles. Okay, that's the first thing you need to know. Okay, that's just straight up.
But they do sell stuff from Captivate, and I'm liking the foods I'm using from Captivate. This here is a freeform amino acid blend that's supposed to be good, that I'm going to start dosing, and we'll see if it have any effect. But this is one of those things. Amino acids are one of those things that I think are cheap and easy. So go for it, because maybe it's a very helpful thing to do. So, and I like these guys. Their products seem really great. So I've been liking the food of theirs that I've been fang. So I'm going to try this one out and see how that goes.
And maintenance people like myself and stores, check out Champion Lighting, because I get a lot of my dry goods and stuff from there.
Yeah, they're great.
I'm really pleased with their wholesale prices, and it's really working out well for me. They have a thing, orders $400 or more get free shipping, and that's been working out really well for me.
Yeah, so I got to order more stuff apparently. So check them out. Use the link below, championlighting.com. Good people, good prices, good things.
You need to blow Reef Beef.
So, Richard.
Yeah, man.
My main thing, I suppose I could have prepped this a little more, but they're just things that have been happening to me in the work week that I've been seeing.
Right. And also, you've been really busy with work.
Yeah.
And you've also been really busy with some personal shit that's going on.
Yeah.
So I just want to put that out there so people don't think, whatever that means. But the Ben didn't prepare for the show. It's like, no, there's some shit going on. And my wife's had COVID for the last 10 days.
Yeah, no, I sort of, and I'm due to get to your house. So I'm like, I was following where you were saying when she tested negative. I was like, come on.
Yeah, she's negative. So that's all good. So tell me these things that you've been noticing that you wanted to talk about.
One is a common thread in my whole career, which is people's impatience. And then the other one is sort of two-pronged, because one is, at first I say bad choices of equipment or livestock, but to be fair, a lot of that is uneducated choices. This is a terrible hobby for you saw a cool aquarium on TV or at the mall or whatever, or at a friend's house, you got cash and you're just going to run into it head first. This is a rough hobby for that, to just start making uninformed purchases. And I see it so many times, people, either, they don't know where to go at first, and like, oh, there's a fish store in my town. So they go to the fish store, and they'll ask around there. Luck of the draw. Maybe there's a good salesperson there. Maybe there isn't, so if that doesn't do it for someone, then they're like, so they look online, then there's forums, and forums, the forums are good things and bad things. I just think forums are kind of stinky, because every day I'm talking to new people, people that call me looking for service. Most of them don't go through with it, but, and I'll ask them, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that the real problem, I think, with forums, because I'm still thinking about this a lot, it's the same with everything. The signal to noise ratio is 1:16, just like Redfield. It's just too hard in anything, in the e-foil, in kiting, in reefing, in bass, in music. The signal to noise is just so fucking hard to cut through now.
Well, the common complaint is, maybe you go and you ghost the forum for a little while, just trying to see, where you're supposed to put stuff in this and that. And then eventually you say, hey, my name's Ben. I want to keep a saltwater aquarium. Never done this before. I don't even know where to begin. Like, do I need a refractor? You start asking questions. And then the problem is that, the signal to noise, and we've touched on this before. I think part of the problem is a person's inability to decipher whether what someone just told you. Ask a question, you get 20 answers. Now you feel more confused because you're like, oh, these 20 different people said 20 different things, and I don't know which. Hey, that should be any endeavor, because it's subjective. Some things are subjective. Like if you just said, like, okay, first, I don't know if I need to test my saltwater. What do I test it with? And someone's like, oh, a Hanna checker. No, use a refractometer. No, use a hydrometer. No, use this. So you can just see how people. And so I deal with this all the time, is these impatient people with loads of money that just want to get going, and they barrel. It's like they just smash right into the hobby, and then that's how I get the phone calls, is they dick around with this after, for a while, trying to do their own thing, got advice from a store, got advice from the forum, killing stuff. What the hell? Google around, aquarium maintenance. If they get on the phone with me, then I start trying to like unravel all that and see if they want to be a client, but or I do consulting as well. They could just pay for information. But then again, I don't know. That's an interesting point there. If you pay, if you talk to someone on the phone, you're like, all right, I like this person. They seem to know what they're talking about. And then you're willing to give me X amount of dollars. I always, I'm good at making those people feel like they called the right person, and like, oh, I'm glad I got a hold of you, and blah, blah, blah. But it's interesting because you have given someone money. Does that make you maybe feel better about that information?
Oh, sure.
Than free forum info?
Purchase bias absolutely is a thing. I bought it, therefore it's the best. Most of the fucking arguments that we have about equipment is because people want to feel justified in the money they've spent on the stuff they've decided to spend money on. So we get these ridiculous arguments about, what's the best pump and what's the best controller and what's the best light. And it's just stupid because it's not a thing. There is no best, there's just different. And it's the same thing with, if I paid somebody, $1,000, I really want that to have been a good decision.
Yeah. Like buying an expensive bottle of wine. You're like, this is great. And other people
Right.
like, it tastes like crap.
Right,
Like, I know,
right.
but
So,
I spent $1,000 on it.
you buy a really expensive aquarium hobby strip light, you are much more apt to think it's great than if you buy a cheap one, regardless of how they work, because it's a well-known fallacy. It's purchase bias.
One of the new clients that I got, he was actually a client of mine probably about 8 years ago. And back then he sold his tank and was done with the hobby. So we stopped. I hadn't spoken to him in 8 years. And then several months ago, he contacted me again. Hey, you still doing aquariums? Yeah, blah, blah, blah. And, and then, so there we go. And it's funny, I'm a little older now. So I just don't put up with stuff that annoys me. So he's a great guy, but he's this guy that will like text me all throughout the day, oh, what about this coral? You should I get this? And it's just like, it's a little frustrating for me because, someone should respect my time. Now, it can be my problem if I answer too many questions for free and then I start getting annoyed. I start getting annoyed at him, but technically I think I'm getting annoyed at myself because I didn't set boundaries for someone to like bother me all day long as if I have nothing else to do. But he is an impatient guy. Here's where the relationship works though. He really, really respects me because I have already talked him out of like thousands of dollars of things.
Yeah.
And I was also very blunt with him because all throughout the day, he's like, hey, do I need this? Texting me, and I'd look at it. And at first I'd respond right away, then start, cleaning an aquarium again. Hey,
I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, it's okay.
I think and I hear Raj in my head at the same time. Because what I do is I go, this is my hourly rate, and I'll bill it in 15-minute increments. If you email me, if you call me, if you text me, I'm charging you 15 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And if you did that, then you could not bill them if you wanted to, because you felt like not billing them, but you're covered. You never get in that position of, fuck, this person's taking all my time,
Yeah.
because you've already established, this is how this works.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. Like, I'll be more than, I should be like, I'll be more than happy to answer your questions, but these are like consultation questions. And I can't just
Yes.
stop what I'm doing during breakfast, at dinner, while my hands are in a tank, and tell you that you don't need to buy that carpet anemone.
Yeah. Well, maybe you need to talk with him about it and go, hey, you're texting me a lot, and I'm trying to decide what level of priority to give your texts.
Yeah.
So if you want, I'll just start billing you in 15-minute increments or whatever. And I'll treat it like, where you're using you've hired my time.
Yeah.
If you don't want to do that, I'll get around to them when I get around to them. Which would you
almost like a
which would you
retainer.
prefer?
You could
Which
sort of
would you-
call it like a retainer.
Well, the retainer would be, you paid me this much money, and now I'm going to answer your questions when you call.
That's true.
So you could get a retainer. You could go, hey, for an extra $100 a month or whatever, I'll answer your questions during business hours.
Yeah.
But you could, it's another, I know sometimes you and everyone in the hobby or in the industry, it's hard to tell what you should be charging for and what you shouldn't. And the only reason I'm saying anything is because I know sometimes you get into the mode of, damn, I'm doing this, I'm not even getting paid.
Yeah.
And you even just said it about this guy. So it's kind of like, well, get ahead of that, man.
Yeah, no, and for sure. I mean, and and I do maintenance on his tank, but so, like, without saying too much information, he's like a pilot of a boat in the shipping channel. In Houston. So I know what happens. He's on this barge, and he just starts looking at aquarium stuff, and he just starts zinging off stuff at me. And it's like, yo, I'm not sitting on a barge board. So,
Right. So that's where you get it. If you ask him, then he'll either pay you, great, or he'll stop texting you every 5 minutes while he's sitting on the barge.
We have finally gotten to that point, but that was from me ignoring him for days, which that's not as healthy as a relationship as like being upfront and saying like, hey, I need to charge for all this communication. But I did get him to put his brakes on. So now he cut it down.
Excellent.
But his impatience and his questions, they make me realize, not realize, that's not the right word, because I live this every single day. But it's like the average person that comes in the hobby, and you go on the internet, you see all these gorgeous, pretty things, and you got money burning a hole in your pocket. And I just feel bad for my own hobby that this is obviously the lion's share of activity that goes on in our industry is the uninformed burning a hole in your pocket, blah, 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 killing fish because they're incompatible, buying corals that you don't have the proper lights for, and getting to a point where you killed $1,000, $2,000 of fish. You feel bad or you don't feel bad. If you don't feel bad, you need to go find another hobby. But, and then you slow down and you find someone like me, like, what am I doing wrong? Which I get frustrated because I'm like, what are you doing wrong? I would prefer the rare person that would do like you and I do, Richard, which is, oh man, I want a clown in an anemone so bad. I don't know shit about it. So I'm going to get books, I'm going to read, I'm going to talk. And after I feel comfortable doing that, then I am going to fucking purchase an animal and take care of it. But you have to realize, and that I see this because I'm where the rubber meets the road. That's an old phrase I used to use too much. But I'm where, like, people are trying to get in and asking me for help. So I see all this impatience and this, uneducated buying of stuff. And it's like, this is most of the activity in our industry is just like shit that's going to die.
Yeah, can you think of anything to do about it?
Again, it's almost like you jumping on forums to try to be like, the light or whatever. It's always been me trying to get in on these interactions to steer it in a better way. And this is the only thing that I can, much like you feel like, why do I do this on the forums? If I help people and they don't listen to me, and it's like, why do I help people that don't listen to me? So I don't help people that don't listen to me, but
yeah, I've been much happier interacting with people on the Reef Beef Discord
yeah,
than just on random forums.
that's interesting too, Richard, because if you call me and you just, because you Googled me and you call me, you don't know shit about me, and we're having a conversation. Of course, I'm good at converting that to a sale if that's possible, because the way I talk to people, inform them and help them and this, that. But the Discord's interesting because you and I are already a known quantity. So they'll usually already come in with, this is going to sound weird, but I'm saying already some sort of respect for the knowledge that you and I have.
No, that's totally clear. It's being in a smaller pond makes a lot of things easier. And we were sold this bill of goods when the internet was starting, and don't be in an echo chamber, and don't be in a silo, and all those things are important. But at the same time, it's gotten to the point now where the noise to signal is too much. And so what good is it for me to go on a forum and start talking to people if every conversation is going to be work for me to justify against people who think I'm wrong? And that's fine. I don't mind some of that, but this is what happens with people with experience. They just go, I could be here forever, blooding my head against these walls, and it won't get better. And people just keep wanting more from me. And so why am I, having infinite communities with people from everywhere with such a broad commonality, what do I have in common with 250,000 people on a big forum? Some stuff, but there's a million people who are on that forum more than I am, who are going to answer the questions faster. And then why do I want to be involved in something where there's 20 people giving 20 different answers that compete with each other? Because it makes me crazy and it makes them crazy. But on a smaller forum or on something like our Discord, it's already pre-vetted, there's more in common already, and I feel better about people on our Discord, not us answering other people's questions, because clearly they have something in common with the way we think to be in our community.
No, like it's great. Now we've gotten to know people that are on, on our thing. If I see John G or Scott C,
Ron.
answering something, I don't, sometimes I'll skim through it to see what they're saying, but it's I know that they're saying good things,
Yeah. If you like us, smear that shit tally. And if you don't like us, just flush.
You need to blow Reef Beef.
Hey, Ben.
Hey, Richard.
This show is powered by PolypLab.
I feel it.
And what we're talking about is this is not open, is it? No, this is closed. Reefroids. It is a reef food that I use and have been using for a long time for baby corals. It's one of the foods I feed my reef. It's a good food. People always say, what's the best food? Oh, there is a hole in it. That's why. Oof, oof, oof.
It's hard to say what's the best food.
There is no best food. And I think it's like you eating. You don't want to eat the same thing all the time unless you're neurally atypical. Like me, sometimes I really just want the same food all the time. But your corals aren't really like that. Your corals like a variety, just like anything else. So I like to rotate through food. Sometimes I mix them, sometimes I don't. So PolypLab Reefroids, good food. It's one of my staples. So do it, get it. PolypLab. Check them out wherever good products are sold for reef tanks.
You need to blow Reef beef.
You know, part of the thing that's always stuck in my head too, that's frustrating, is these conversations that you and I have. I think Reef beef will catch the occasional, let me just say noob, whatever. I don't mean that derogatorily, but we'll catch the occasional noob. And me personally, I think from all my time in retail, like I have some sort of affinity to the person who doesn't know jack, that's just trying to jump on the moving train, because I've always been there. I've always been in that moving train car trying to grab people that are grabbing at me. If that's a metaphor, I don't know if that sounds confusing, but you know, the tricky thing is, I don't know. It's like a frustrating thing that's in my head that I'm trying to pull out and make words of. And I guess I'm not doing a good job of spelling it out. It's just, I wish it wasn't necessarily like Petco's and you know, some rundown store or bad forums, or, you know, these are where people are jumping in. And it feels like the first bit of advice anyone should give anyone is, this hobby is similar to growing a bonsai, and it needs to be approached with patience. Because, man, I see this all the time, a new hobbyist, and like, oh my God, you know, you would see it and you're like, you know, your tank's 2 weeks old and it's got a flame hawk in it. Why do you have a flame hawk in a 2-week-old tank? Like, I saw it at the store. I know my tank wasn't quite ready, but I had to have it. So this is a phenomenon I've seen a lot, is people go to a store and they see a fish, and I don't know if the salesperson told them or if there's a feeling in themselves, but they feel like that there will never be another flame hawk ever again. And if they don't buy this one, they'll never see another one again. And it's just impulse control. This hobby takes impulse control. 9 times out of 10, all your aquarium problems are gonna, you know, derive back to your lack of patience.
Yeah, but you know, we did all that stupid shit too. So I don't know if there's a way around it. So I'm trying to let go of all of my tension around these kinds of issues.
It's almost like a personality trait that does well in our industry and those that don't.
I don't know what that means.
Like someone's lack of impulse control or patience to get what they want and realize that shit's more complicated than they want it to be, and that they're going to have to learn. And people just see a reef tank. Oh, I want that, and I got a lot of money, so I'm going to go get that. And it's just like, unless you're hiring someone like me or Rich, it's a what do they say? I used to say it's a steep learning curve, but the Science Friday or whatever it was, Freakonomics, they were saying it's the opposite. It's a shallow.
Yeah, it's steep, a long, shallow learning curve is what our hobby is. A steep learning curve is you'll learn it all really fast.
Yeah.
And it's not what we do. I don't know, man. It's tough. I don't know. This week I'm feeling, you know, I can't control other people. Or this week, yeah. The last 2 years I've been like, fuck, why can't I control other people? And this week I'm like, yeah, you know, there was a conversation about pinecone fish. I don't remember where it was. And I'm in my head, I was like, nobody should get a pinecone fish. There's no reason to get a pinecone fish. It's not going to work. They need colder water. They need specialized environments. They should just never happen.
We had them at the Houston Zoo. There was a 500-gallon aquarium.
Yeah.
It had no lights on it. We had a plaque on it that said no flash photography. We had an upcharge chiller. It was like 55 or 65.
And then
degrees.
you find them, but you find these fish in the hobby once in a while, and
Really?
they're just doomed. Oh yeah, they're just doomed. You know, and then you get there's all the phases, right? Because then you get the people who are like, well, I saw it in the store, so I want to save it. And there is an argument to that. There is an argument to that. There's an upside and a downside to that. So it's tough.
I did that once with a bumblebee grouper, Epinephelus lanceolatus.
Did you know how big it was going to get?
No, what I did is I saved it from the store. I bought it and said, hey man, you know what this turns into, right? And he's like, oh yeah, but it was on the list and it looked cool. And I guess it was a little awkward for me because I was at a point where I wanted to like chastise him, but I was like, it's just awkward. Like,
So
why?
you bought it?
I bought it and took it to my house because I was like, what idiot's gonna buy this?
You.
I kept it for a year and a half, and then I brought it to the downtown aquarium in Houston.
Look. Well, this is even worse. We gotta, and it's better than it used to be. But fish that get giant, if you buy them and bring them to your house, you're a jackass.
I was afraid.
If you
I was
knowingly, it's like, oh, and having, you know, worked for 10 years at a public aquarium, or 12 years, I guess, you know, people think I'll just donate it to the aquarium. And it's like, fuck you. We don't want your stupid fish.
Dude,
what are we going to do with your stupid, big, stupid fish?
I tell people this all the time. The two sort of, you know, working in retail stores. And then when I worked at public aquarium for short, when I was at the Houston Zoo, exactly what you just said. Like when you work in a retail store all day long, people bring Oscars and Plecos and Pacus and like, oh, I thought you'd want it, you know. And even if they bring us a Pacu that big, oh, you're not going to give me $100, bro. I'm not going to give you $1 for it.
Yeah, I don't want your big fucking fish.
I don't even want it. And then when we're at the zoo, it's even worse. People before would call us because it wasn't easy to get to us. But calls, you know, oh, I thought you'd want this nurse shark. And it's like, we already have 6 on display.
Right.
And we can't just throw it on display. It had to be an observation for like 6 months.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I think I was happy when I switched from freshwater to saltwater because the big animals were less. And I don't see many panther groupers for sale anymore. I don't see many of, you know, the Queensland groupers for sale, mostly the groupers. I just don't see them that often anymore. They still happen, but boy, you know, it's one thing to go, I'm going to get a rabbit fish and let it grow out and then rehome it. Okay. That's probably going to work out just fine. Someone's going to want that fish, but you know, anything big and aggressive, why? Just don't get it. And I mean, anything, and the point I was getting to earlier, you know, nautilus and pinecone fish, and you know, there's just
octopus, sharks.
If you're not gonna put the time in to give them the specialized environment, you probably shouldn't get them either. You're just buying something you know. But I remember being at the store, and they had a pinecone fish in, and I always wanted a pinecone fish. And it was like, this is going to die. It's got a chance with me because I've been doing this for 1,000 years already. But I won't do that again because it doesn't have a chance with me unless I'm setting up a species-specific tank. So
yeah, I used to work at a store a long time ago where the boss I was supposed to be the saltwater manager, but the store owner would occasionally like bring stuff in. And it's just like, he just had no clue. And he brought in from Australia, I don't know the scientific name of it, but it was a Shaw's boxfish.
Oh my God, yeah.
Really expensive, fish. Cold water. It was pretty. And I was like, you know, this was sort of pre-internet, but I grabbed like that Burgess book or whatever I had and was looking at it and reading about it because, you know, I saw it in the thing and I was like, dude, we don't even have anything set up for this. It died in 2 days. Yeah. And I think it cost wholesale like $500.
And so our industry is really weird on this because people want to say, well, you wouldn't do that with a dog, right? First of all, yes, people do all the time. People who have apartments and have no legs buy themselves greyhounds. When greyhounds are, you know, Pyrenees mountain dog. It's like, no, you should. People do stupid stuff all the time. It gets even weirder with fish because we, as a species, routinely torture billions of fish and don't think twice about it. So it can be really hard to get your head around, for people to get their head around, you know, I just went fishing last weekend and we nailed all these fish to a board and took a picture with them. So I'm going to buy this fucking whatever fish is. And if it dies, oh, well, I get that. I understand that feeling. I guess I just want it to be reasoned. If I'm putting fish into the tank, my display tank, and then they fight or get sick, odds are I'm not going to be able to catch them out of that tank.
Yeah.
Because it's a coral tank. It's not a fish tank. So that's the priority. But I know I'm trying to head off potential problems, but I'm very cognizant of the risk when I'm doing it. I guess what would make me feel better is more people who are more informed of the risk when they make choices rather than making blind choices and hoping. Maybe that gets at what you're saying.
Yeah. And something I was trying to say earlier was that I shouldn't necessarily feel frustrated about this, but I get frustrated because the audience that I want to listen to me is not the audience that we're going to get. If you've gotten far enough to like find Reef Beef and listen to these like philosophical aquarium conversations that we have, you're usually not.
Yeah. We've had discussions with you and me and Snowman about projects we can do to address what you're talking about. We just have to see if in 3 weeks from now you're still interested. Right? I mean, because that's the thing.
I am always interested in shepherding in new hobbyists that are confused and frustrated. I love that place. I'm so good at that place. That's what I do. And to kind of cut through the bullshit for them, say, this is what you should be concerned with right now. Let's walk, before we run, blah, 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 take it in stages. Do I need solid carbon dosing? Do I have to do this? And someone said, get a sterilizer, and what sort of,
So there's got to be, right. But for you to do something useful in that space, we need to figure out a way that's sustainable. This is, I'm going to get back to forums again. Being on forums is not sustainable. It's a treadmill that runs forever. And especially if it's a big forum that is based on advertisers and gets lots of clicks, and that's how they make their revenue. It's designed never to end. Mm-hmm. It's designed not to succeed. It's designed to use for lubricant of its machinery new hobbyists. That's just how things are.
Yeah.
And so I love when both of us get passionate, and I love that we have Snowman who often goes, do you really want to spend your time doing that? Is that what you really want to do? But we'll see, because we've had some good ideas about how to help newer hobbyists. We have to just decide, is the juice worth the squeeze? And I want to be really careful about that, because I don't want us to get overextended,
burned out or whatever.
It's easy enough for us to get burned out as it is. And we've got a laundry list of projects that we still have to get to. So
good people finding good results with the information I have given them feeds my soul and puts back on that. Whereas hearing stories about, crappy systems or people that didn't care, or just like the new client I told you that well, they're not a new client yet, but where, just seeing someone that calls themselves like a maintenance company come in and do just a bunch of dumb shit and kill a bunch of fish. And it, no better. They're a maintenance company, but no better than any Joe Blow off the street.
It's so frustrating. So frustrating.
Part of me should be like, yes, that is a competitor of mine in some way, shape, or form. So that's good to be on the top of a pile of dog shit. No, not saying that I'm shit. I'm just saying, like,
no, but that's a great way to think about it, because then you can start making decisions about the reality of being the top of that pile of dog shit.
Well, it's funny because I was just thinking today that there's levels to this shit, because, you see, like you spoke about Raj earlier. I really look up to Raj's business acumen, and I've, known him on Facebook and in person for like many years, and I'll blah, 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 something, about my business on Facebook. And he really shoots me straight. And sometimes it's not real palatable to me and it hurts, but he shoots it straight. That's why I respect him. He doesn't tell me what I want to hear. He tells me what I need to hear sometimes.
Yeah.
And I mean, sometimes it's tough. And even what I was getting to is, I saw some incompetent work today and I think like, I'm so great. I'm not the greatest out there. And there's levels to this shit. There's bigger dogs. There's more knowledgeable people.
So I like teaching stuff, right? Everything I've done, I've taught, right? So with kiting, I like to help people the same way you're saying. And I think I'm good at teaching stuff. So I try to help. And that can be really frustrating. And because people are going to do what they want to do anyway. And they're, unless you've gotten in with them into their brains where they think they should listen to you, there's no point. People are just going to come to the beach. They're going to do stupid shit and get hurt because they don't ask locals and they don't pay attention and they don't think. I can't stop that from happening. I'm done. If somebody's laying out their shit in a stupid way and it's in my way, I'm just going to move it or rig my stuff over because I know I'm going to be off the beach in 5 minutes and they're still going to be there 30 minutes later. Right. It might be the same with reefs. It's just, we can only fix what we can fix. We can only address the people who want to listen to us. This
has happened to me many times in my career as a salesman, but the person that comes to you and said, hey, how do you do X, Y, and Z? And so you start the conversation and they have come to you seeming like they want to know, but like when they ask you a question, you start talking and then they interrupt you while you're talking and they'll do like 2 or 3 sentences and you're like, what the fuck are you doing? Right. What do you want from me?
Do you want my input or do you want a vent or do you want support? What do you want from me here? And that's a great kind of question to ask, because when they stop up short, they go, oh no, I just want you to agree with what I'm going to say. I'll do that for you. Because like Raj, the only reason you listen to Raj is because you should listen to Raj, right? If you didn't know Raj and he started posting, what the fuck are you doing with QuickBooks, you idiot?
Yeah, and I didn't know him at all.
You'd be like, fuck you, buddy. So, I don't know what the answer is. I'm in a good place this week, so I'm kind of like, people are gonna say stupid shit. Just move on.
It feels like you and I have flip-flop for this week.
We have flip-flop for this week. I have a beef though.
Yeah, beef on. Do your beef.
My beef is Palythoa.
Oh yeah.
Palythoa can be really bad. And so why I have this beef this week is because we've talked about this several times with people who have been exposed to Palythoa toxin and gotten really sick. And we have a friend who got really sick. I'm not going to say their name. It doesn't even matter. This person knows what they're doing. They took all the possible precautions that they could, like full on face mask and, respirator and gloves and aprons and the whole thing. They were, ridding a tank of a Palythoa infestation, right? And, putting them in plastic. And it seems like what happened was that they put the bag in the trash can. And when they pushed it down, it huffed. You know how a bag will, all the air huffs out of it. And that's how they were exposed. They got really fucking sick. They went to the hospital and they were really fucking sick. And it would have been so much worse because they're landlocked and they were saying this is Palythoa poisoning. And they were not being taken seriously because people are like, fuck you. What are you talking about? It just so happened this person had a friend who worked in that hospital who knew that they knew what they were talking about this poison, and came up and talked to the people and went, no, this person knows what they're talking about. You need to look into what they're saying. And it was absolutely Palythoa poisoning. And it was bad. We could have lost a friend because people are keeping Palythoas and then ask our friend to take them out of their tank for them. And they did everything right except for one thing at the end. And we've got people in our fucking hobby who are giving other people advice like, put the rock with Palythoa in a pot and boil it. Serious advice people are giving. Put it in the oven and bake it. Serious advice. You leave it out in the backyard in the sun. With caveats, that's terrible advice. But you know, right? Because if your dog goes back there or your little kid goes back there and fucking rubs their hands on fucking dying Palythoa and then puts their finger in their eye, your dog doesn't have a finger, your dog would just eat the Palythoa. So, then you got dead people. So look, we know Palythoa is really bad, right? Zoanthids, not as bad. We know you can die from Palythoa. We know it. Stop keeping fucking Palythoa. That's my beef. But I've got a venomous lizard right here. I've got a Mexican beaded lizard, right? Because I'm a good person, because Gila monsters are illegal in California, so I'm not going to do it. But I got a Mexican beaded lizard. I had a Gila monster that I didn't know, this was like 30 years ago, 20 years ago. I didn't realize they were illegal in California when I got it. But as soon as we had a kid, that thing was gone. It was in a locked tank, but kids are smart and shit happens. I'm not taking that risk. I'm not fucking having Palythoa in my house anymore either. And this Mexican beaded lizard is locked up. You have to undo a key to get in there and get bit. And it's really hard to get bit. So as venomous stuff goes, that's okay to, that's on the easy side, on the safer side. Palythoa, man, I've got some still, it's not the grandest, it's just that fucking brown shit that I'm killing off as I can. But every time I pull a rock out, it's like I could be fucked.
I know. I mean, I've been sick 3 times with it, and it's all from the same tank. And it sucks though. Like I had some good headway with using F-Aptasia, but it's like there's just so much of it, and I would do like a patch like that big at a time. And then like invariably a story of one of my friends getting real sick would come out, and I'd just be like, nah, I'm not even fucking with it. And then the shit grows back where you killed it. And it's just so goddamn frustrating.
If you want to get rid of them underwater like that, it would be the last thing I would do on the tank, right? Spray them down, pumps are off, cover them with F-Aptasia, wait your half an hour, flip everything back on, you're done for the next.
Walk away.
You're out of there. The other thing you could do, but you have to keep up on it, right? Because you have to stay ahead of them. The other thing I would do is, because it's a rock you can't get rid of, is I would smother them with epoxy putty. I would, and yeah, no, this is going to be ugly for 2 months.
Yeah.
Sorry, but we have to get rid of this coral.
Here's what makes me wonder, Richard. If you smother them and then you've got a skimmer on the system as they die and whatnot, is the skimmer like aerosolizing palytoxin?
Certainly could happen that way.
Like I know
that's not a terrible point, because my skimmer is under the house. So if I've done that, probably nothing bad's going to happen to me unless I go under the house and, smoke my skimmer smoker.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what the answer is. I think the better answer is stop trading and selling and keeping and giving away and having Palythoa in your tanks.
This is the argument of the manufacturers of plastic and putting the onus on the end users to recycle your plastic, because really, like, it makes me wonder, like, does there need to be, as every day there is new hobbyists, is every day that Palythoa will be sold just because it makes someone money. And
yes,
certainly information from Reef Beef does not disseminate through the whole
It's not
world.
Shaking the pillars of the hobby.
Yes. But almost like it should be beseeched to the powers that be, like, quit collecting these. And people like, oh, but people like them and it makes us money. It's going to be.
First of all, there's no powers that be. So
yeah,
we're the Wild West, essentially.
Yeah.
And the more I've been thinking about this, the more I'm in favor of regulation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just in favor of it for a bunch of stuff, because we're not going to do it ourselves, right? It's people are, If you can make a buck, people are going to try to make a buck. And I get that. But things like Palythoa, they shouldn't be impossible to get, but you should need to apply to get them, right?
They can hurt people.
You want a thing that could kill people. You should show some reason why you should have. And there's a billion other corals. You don't need a goddamn Palythoa.
And the trickier thing is like your Mexican beaded lizard. It is easy to sequester that and have a protocol for how you clean his cage, handle him, feed him, blah, blah, blah. Where palytoxin is a bit more mysterious, because the 3 times that I got sick were sort of like 3 different ways, because I certainly didn't do the same thing 3 times in a row. I did something different. And all 3 times, me personally, it started with me getting a metallic taste in my mouth.
Yeah.
So the second and third time I was like, fuck. And the third time, as soon as I had that, I was like, fuck. And I cleaned everything off and I was like, I'm done. Go home, get sick as shit for one night. Like I had the flu.
Yeah. My Mexican beaded lizard is not a spitting cobra.
Yeah.
The venom is contained.
Yeah.
Palythoa, anything could happen, right?
Yeah,
a guy's dog. Did the dog die? I don't remember the story.
Well, Sanjay threw one in his backyard, and what was the story? It was like 2-3 months old, dried up. So he's like, certainly and he touched it, and I think he got sick or something.
Yeah, let's confirm that. I don't know that story, but it could be. But if you're gonna get rid of it, bleach it, put it in bleach.
I have one story of what I did. The only time I really did this successfully during 2 years ago when Texas had that big ice storm that we aren't used to. It did nuke a tank that I do that's 8 foot long, 1 foot tall, 1 foot wide. It just blew it off its wheels. Tank was dead, just milk colored stuff in there. And I knew that she had pally all across the back of her tank. And I was like, dude, what do I do? And at the time I consulted with you and saw something also on the internet about bleach, that bleach would somehow chemically like tear apart palytoxin. And I even took a video and put it on Facebook of showing me glug, glug, glug a whole container of bleach in there, and told the lady to close the door. Don't go in there for 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, we'll just see. And it was crazy. It was just bleach to hell. But that was the only time I've ever done. And that was nuking it from space.
Yeah. And, lots of times it's not a problem. I had Palythoa grandis in my tank for a long time. We had it at the academy for a long time. We dove in those tanks. No one got sick. But it's just not worth the risk. I mean, maybe that's the theme for today's show. I'd like people to be taking informed chances rather than random chances.
Yeah. But again, people don't know what they don't know. So then you get a new hobbyist into a store. What's that thing? Yeah, you can have that. Boom, bought it.
That's why I'm all for regulation. The same with plastics. I think we talked about this before. The airport at SFO, no plastic. There's no plastic in there. No plastic drinks, no plastic bags. It's just not there. And you know what? There's other shit, and you just buy that. It's not like I needed to have plastics or my life is worse. You just don't have it. And
see, but that's what's so...
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's just what's so silly, is because then you'll have, not like I'm worried about it, but I'm seeing some people will get offended. Oh, this place is woke. They don't have plastic bottles. It's like, unless we put our foot down and wean ourselves off of this shit, it ain't going to happen.
Dude, I just saw some video of people talking about my freedoms when seatbelts became regulated.
That was my video.
Was that you put that up? Yeah. When seatbelts, and people don't remember this. I remember this.
I do too.
When seatbelts became a thing, people lost their shit.
People were mad.
When motorcycle helmets became a thing, people lost their shit. And it's like, what?
With seatbelts, it's weird because seatbelts, we don't think about it. I mean, for most of us, it's just the first thing we do when we get in a car.
Right.
Like I don't put my seatbelt on and say, God damn it, we're almost communist. Like that's insane.
But that's what was going on.
Yeah.
People were like,
in the video I showed, that's what the lady said. It was sort of like sorry, but it was like a redneck lady getting interviewed in her car, and she was saying, you know, they at the beginning video, did you see that where the guy said, man, a guy works 12 to 14 hours a day, and you know, maybe, you know, you get in your car to go home, you can't even have, you know, 1 to 2 beers.
Yeah. So your video wasn't about seatbelts. Your video was about drinking and driving, right? So
Yeah.
I hadn't even gotten back to drinking and driving, which came before seatbelts. My cousin was killed by a drunk driver, and his sister became huge in Mothers Against Drunk Driving, right? And so did his mom. But, you know, and people were like, well, I should be able to drink and drive. It's like, fuck you.
No.
Fuck
Yeah.
you. And now people are kind of like, yeah, no, you're an asshole if you drink and drive. Whereas 40 years ago, people were like, my freedoms.
Yeah.
Like, other people's freedoms matter too. So
I mean, do you really fucking need Palythoa? You don't.
You
It's
don't.
not that important.
So I'm a big fan of I used to say we better come up with our own standards and practices before someone does it for us and we're not going to like it. I have very little hope that we're going to police ourselves.
If you're watching this, please understand that, you know, that was always the trick as someone, well, I don't understand the difference between a zoanthid and a Palythoa. I mean, I remember like the worst Palythoas were ones that had common skin and the polyps would come out of it, whereas zoanthids are like singular. But that's not even necessarily the case, because I'll even tell you the exact type of Palythoa that made me sick 3 times. It's called Captain Jerk Palythoa. Those
are the light green ones.
Yeah, they have like a weird golden green in the center and it comes out. They're not even that pretty. I don't know why. I wish I could just go back in time and when I put that single solitary polyp in a tank and just not do that. And
Yeah.
the funny thing, it seems like the uglier they are, it seems like there's more palytoxin. And I don't know that for a fact, but it just seems that way.
It's, you know, people like weird shit, but why? I don't think it makes any sense for a new hobbyist to be responsible for choosing which animal is going to kill them or not based on knowledge that they don't have.
And that is where, and I too, like normally you talk about like regulation or industry, I'm like, ugh. But on Palythoa, this is my statement, is I wish someone, some entity, something in our industry would quit importing Palythoa.
Yeah. And like I say, if you want Palythoa, okay, there should be a mechanism for you to get Palythoa. There should be a mechanism for people to get Queensland groupers, right? There should be a mechanism to get a panther grouper. If somebody has a real, you know, reason and has, you know, if Alex G builds a 10,000 gallon tank and because he loves a Queensland grouper, I got no problem with that. But they shouldn't be there for impulse buy in stores. It's just, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like a tiger.
Do you know that this is a fact? You know that there's more tigers in Texas than there is in Asia?
I do know that.
Sorry, people.
That's awesome.
It's good if people, again, just like you and I talk about, it's good if it's people who honestly love and care for the tigers and are meeting all their requirements. And if there's, I don't know that they need to be AZA licensed or anything like that, but
what do tigers dream of when they have a little tiger snooze?
They dream of living in Texas.
I'm not going to do the whole song from The Hangover.
Book time. Let's do books real quick.
All right, do books real quick. What you got?
This is sort of a rare book, I think. It was
oh yeah,
Svein and Fossa, who wrote the modern coral reef aquarium books that I love.
The most beautiful aquariums of the world.
It is not subjective, it is objective. But anyways, like there's not like necessarily a lot of information. They're just pretty tanks from around the world. Which funny, it's a little dated. It's from the early 2000s. So when I was looking at some of them aren't like, you know, I'm like, meh. But this was pretty in the early 2000s. Real cool. I think I'd call this like a coffee table book. Sort of.
What do you like about that?
It's kind of fun to look back, and I mean that's a decent SPS display. That's a nice SPS display right there. But it's like going back and looking at what was cool, and like this is offered as something that's cool, like an insert cylinder, which I'll tell you as a maintenance guy, I'd rather stab myself in the face with a fork than.
But it's the most beautiful aquariums of the world.
This is objective. Yeah, it's just cool, old school, like flat back hex tanks that are so like dated looking now.
So funny.
But cool book though.
That is a cool book.
With shiny, let's see that shininess.
Oh, they spent money on the cover.
Yeah, good book.
I've got cephalopods, octopuses, and cuttlefishes for the home aquarium.
Of course you do.
And not just because on this page there's a picture of some sexy ass dude.
Look at that.
This is by Nancy King and Colin Dunlop, and it has a lot of information and stuff inside of it from the Tonmo community. TONMO.com is the octopus news magazine online. If you have information that you want about keeping cephalopods, tonmo.com. And this is a good book about keeping cephalopods. It's got a lot of really good information, and it's the one I recommend to people. If they are interested in cephalopods, this is a good book for you to read.
That ties in with the rest of our show, because if you feel like, oh, I want to have an octopus, get that book and read through it first, and then tell me at the end of that book, do you still want an octopus?
Most people don't want an octopus. On the one hand, it's perfect because it's got a short lifespan, but nobody wants that. There's so much work to set up a tank. Anyway, that's it. You're right. Yeah, most people don't. So there.
That is our show, and I want to say thank you to those who go onto our Discord and become members, and we call you beefers, and we appreciate you so much because you are the gasoline that goes into our engine that propels us forward.
Yeah, we dig you, beefers. Thank you very much. And this episode was brought to you by saltwateraquarium.com, Champion Lighting, and powered by PolypLab, and all the wonderful beefers who are helping support us with direct contributions by becoming members. Go to reefbeefpodcast.com/membership. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
This episode, hosted by Richard Ross and Ben Johnson, produced by Ben Johnson and Snowman, edited and directed by Snowman. Thanks to our Prime and Gold level beefers, Pedro, Scott O, Robert S, Jason C, Corey, Rich P, James B, Ryan H, Scott C, and Russell.
Okay. That was an uncomfortably long silence. You are the wind beneath our wings.
You are the fire beneath our revolution.
You are the buzzing feeling in my loins.
You are the murder hornets in our paper nest.
Murder hornets. You are the ooze under my toilet seat. That's not right.
You are the antibiotic for our chlamydia.
There you go. But not tetracycline. You're the one that works.
Yeah, the appropriate one that I'm going to take the entire course of.
Beefers, you're the appropriate antibiotic that I'm going to take the full course as recommended to me by a professional doctor.
For my venereal disease.
Beefers, you are the cure to our clap. You just had to stick that in there.
I just had to do it for Ron because he's Scottish, and I always wanted to be Scottish or Polynesian. So
yeah, either or. I mean, maybe I just shouldn't open mouth kiss your wife again.
No, you should totally do that. She will stab you. It's your mom. Your mom.
Okay, well, you stole it, so I thought you were going to keep running with it.
No, I'm gonna go put it back. So, hey, you could even do it this way. Suck my dick, motherfucker. No, don't do that. You could say,
you need to blow Reef Beef.
I don't even know what that means.
I don't either, but
You want-
it came out of my mouth.
You want me to make a big glass piece of beef with a fish inside of it?
Something reef beef related.